It's Pastor Trish, and welcome to Thursday evening, June 25th. We are on Psalm 24. This is a liturgical psalm, and unlike many other psalms, in fact, a couple of things I've read said this psalm, more than any other psalm, scholars all agree on when it would have been used. It's a processional psalm, a psalm that would have been liturgically used at the beginning of a worship procession. And it's not a very long psalm, but it's divided into three parts. The first two verses you hear praise for the Lord, who is creator of all, the Lord over everything. Then the second section of the psalm talks about who is worthy to approach the Lord. And then the third, last section of the psalm talks about the King himself, the King of glory. You might hear some words in here that will remind you perhaps of other songs. The King of glory comes. And so I just invite you to listen to this song. Imagine a worship setting, perhaps, and then just going to tell you a couple more things about it. But Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants too, because God is the one who established it on the seas. God set it firmly on the waters. Who can ascend the Lord's mountain? Who can stand in his holy sanctuary? Only the one with clean hands and a pure heart, the one who hasn't made false promises, the one who hasn't sworn dishonestly. That kind of person receives blessings from the Lord and righteousness from the God who saves. And that's how things are with the generation that seeks him, that seeks the face of Jacob's God. Mighty gates, lift up your heads. Ancient doors, rise up high, so the glorious King can enter. Who is this glorious King? The Lord, strong and powerful. The Lord, powerful in battle. Mighty gates, lift up your heads. Ancient doors, rise up high, so the glorious King can enter. Who is this glorious King? The Lord of heavenly forces. He is the glorious King. Can't you hear that psalm, especially that last section where it's talking about the King God entering into the holy space? Can't you just hear it being sung as it repeats itself? Who is this glorious King? The Lord. Who is this glorious King? The Lord. Mighty gates, lift up your heads. Ancient doors, rise up high. One other thing that I read about this psalm was that to keep in mind that this psalm talks about two who's. Who are we talking about? And of course, one is certainly God, and the other is us. And what happens when two strong personalities or two strong entities meet up? If you think about uh, most stories, when two come to battle, the most powerful wins, right? And this psalm is very, very clear that the most powerful, God is the most powerful, the most mighty, of course, and we know that. Uh, it talks as well, though, about who's worthy to approach God. And I invite you to just think for a moment this evening about how we approach God sometimes and how humanity has done that. And often we don't want to acquiesce to God's mightiness and greatness. And sometimes we don't want to listen to God. And in fact, when we look at the example that Christ gives us, Christ, of course, allowed himself to suffer and to die in order to ultimately show us God's truth and mightiness. It's that upside down, uh, inverted almost way that we truly come to finally understand God's glory and might is that God is so powerful, so strong, so mighty that God's allowed himself to be humbled, even to the point of death on a cross. And so, once again, we see in the Psalm connections to our New Testament understanding as well about the power of God that is found even in the weakness of God. We find ourselves coming to God, approaching God, understanding that power and might, and coming ourselves with humble hearts. Have a good evening. We will see you tomorrow as we finish out our week with the 25th Psalm. Enjoy your night.